Hey everybody, and welcome to our very first episode of Frozen Frontier. How are you guys doing today? No, no, no.
Oh,
All right, let's do a quick sound test this time. Nick, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
Hey, look at that. That's working. Greg, what's up?
Doing very good.
Sean, how's it going?
I'm doing pretty alright.
Awesome. All right, let's try this one more time. What the fuck is the button? Hey everybody, and welcome to the Prologue of Frozen Frontier. How are you guys doing today?
Doing excellent.
Good, good. How about
Yep,
the rest of you?
not
Yeah?
bad. Yep, good.
Yep.
Excited.
I started playing Final Fantasy 14 again. And
I'm
that's,
sorry.
it's gotten real bad. I had like a day off on Friday. I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna watch Final Fantasy Friday, and then
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I was birthday partying.
oh no, that's good because I forgot it was a thing. I was too busy
Okay.
playing dungeons. No, it's I don't know. I've been playing a shit ton of it. I got a character up to 51. It's
It's good.
the low level experience in that game is very boring because of the 3-second global cooldown, but you kind of speed it up a lot when you like up your stats later on in the game. It becomes much more fun at higher level.
I'm nervous about playing it eventually. Granted, I'm on 4, so yeah. Wow.
So
But
I still don't know how you plan to get through the MMOs.
yeah, I don't know either. I don't know. We'll figure that out when I get to 11.
It's
But
the
I had a friend recently started at the gym,
Mhm.
and he said I wanted to play the new expansion, but I couldn't because this game doesn't let me get to the expansion. I have to level a character through all of the other stuff before I get there. He's like,
Mhm.
it took him like 50 or 60 hours, and he just gave up. He's like, I'm done. I'm not.
Oh yeah,
I'm not
no,
playing
it's
Fortnite."
it's like 50 or 60 hours from the end of the base game through all the content they released before the expansion. It's
Damn.
oh man, the best part is like there's so much fucking filler in that game. Like there's just so many moments where they're just there to waste your time. Like so the whole thing is like there's like big godlike creatures called primals, and they're evil things. You got to kill them. And I'm killing like this wind primal called Garuda, and the whole deal with her is that she lives in like this whole she lives like inside in the eye of a hurricane, and she always has like a big hurricane going around her. So you got to get like a special corrupted ether crystal to combat it. Just weird fantasy bullshit. So I go on this like multi-stage quest where I meet this guy, and he makes me go to like some random merchant in the middle of nowhere to get a pot that he then like converts into a corrupted crystal proof pot. And then I do like a multi-quest line to get the crystal for him. And then he's like, oh, congratulations, you just got a corrupted crystal. Oh wait, you needed a corrupted crystal to repel the effects of wind magic? Sorry, this is just going to enhance their effects, so you're kind of shit out of luck. You need to go get a different corrupted crystal. Then I go, so he sends me to one of his students, and I go on like a multi-quest line where she tells me that she knows about these corrupted crystals on this island that's recently been shut down because apparently the dead are walking on that island. So I go to this island, the guy there is like, tell you what, we do have corrupted crystals here, but I'm way too busy with all this like dead walking around stuff to help you out with that. So if you go solve the Walking Dead problem, I'll grab you a corrupted crystal. So you're on this multi-quest line where I like wind up killing a siren because she's the one who's causing all the dead to walk. And after getting all that done, it took like 3 hours. I finished it up. He gives me a corrupted crystal. I take it back to her. She's like, all right, you just got your very own earth aspected corrupted crystal. What's that? You needed an ice aspected corrupted crystal? Fuck you, buddy. But tell you what, I have another student over in Gridania. Why don't you go over there and ask him for help? And at this point, I'd given up on the will to live, and I don't really remember what happened for this next quest line, but I think it involved like I had to hunt down a monster named Giggity and fish out a corrupted crystal from his entrails. It was yeah. When it's not wasting your time, it's pretty great. But oh my god, it's
So I'm worried about playing the MMOs when I play Final Fantasy. Thank God my next game is 5, and I don't have to worry about that shit.
How far are you through 4?
I'm basically at the end of the game. I'm on the moon.
Nice.
I'm outside of Bahamut's cave.
Okay.
I'm basically just like
You're there. That's
I'm
it.
there. Yeah. Yeah.
Enjoy the.
Four has been very frustrating, actually, which is odd because everyone thinks of it as this like classic Final Fantasy game, and I like it. It's a lot of fun, but it's easily the least well paced of the early 4.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what you think of 5 because I've heard a lot of people say 5 is pretty shit, but then I've also seen some people who say like 5 is pretty great, and I'm curious to see where you fall on that.
We'll find out soon.
So Nick, how's it going?
Yeah, man. Not bad. What about you?
It's pretty good.
Yeah, I got promoted at work. It's pretty cool.
Oh, what's your new title?
Just investment consultant. I was an associate consultant before, you know.
Ah,
But it means that I've got my own client book now.
that's cool. Do you get your own office now?
No, nobody has their own office. It's very like it's kind of outdated in that way. Like I mean,
or is it progressive in that way?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think like having got individual offices and stuff is quite outdated.
Don't get me started on that. Open workspaces make me so mad.
Yeah, it can be. Whatever. Things are good. I'm excited.
Well, congratulations.
Thanks, man.
All right. I see a lot of people questioning why Ryan's cam is empty. He'll be joining us later in the day. He's just got some obligations, but that's okay because we're gonna break into constituent parts here, and we're gonna do a series of short little sessions, roughly an hour or so, about how the party gets together. So we're going to start with Nick, and we're going to do how Nick became the party leader here on this mission to Caledonia, and then we're going to do Greg, and we're going to see how Nick recruits Greg, and then we're going to do Sean and see how Nick recruits Sean, and then we're going to do Ryan and see how Nick recruits Ryan, and we might all wrap up together at the very end, or depending on time and how the whole thing goes, we might just wait until next week to bring the whole party together at once to go on some sort of, grand campaign.
I like how you have a skull in there for Ryan's slot.
Well, we put skulls in everyone's cams, assuming that people are going to be dying. So that way I can just, turn off Sean's cam, and then there's already a skull there for him to be dead. It's very easy to kill off players, mechanically. So I'm going to ask Greg and Sean to mute their mics. You can leave your cams on, you can turn them off, whatever. And take off your headphones, and we will see you guys in a couple hours.
Bye.
Bye. All right, Nick.
What's
you want
up?
to introduce your character, and we can get this party started?
All right. So, do you want me to go over any of my actual backstory or not? Just sort of introduce how I look in that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I would love to see.
Which one?
Your actual backstory, how you look, your physical description, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, but should I talk about like my past, my like all the stuff I sent you?
Yeah, dude, tell us about everything up until we're going to start.
Okay, so I am William Marshall. From a very young age, he was born into a minor noble family outside of the city of Solwick. He had 3 or 4 older brothers. He had a lot of older brothers, and generally his family are quite bookish, politicians, not very handy with a blade. And William was the exception to that. So from a very young age, he was beating his older brothers in combat when they were practicing, and it became apparent quickly that he didn't really fit in with the family. He didn't have the same skills that his brothers had, that his father had, and his talents in combat were being wasted, being raised there. So his father, being a competent politician, arranged for William to be squire to a very successful and well thought of knight named Kel Roderick. I don't know particularly what city that was in, Neal.
Probably Solwick.
Okay.
Yeah.
So William goes to be squire of this Kel Roderick fellow, and it's a very inspiring time for him. He learns about the knightly virtues, and Kel Roderick is a really good man. He tries to do well by the peasantry. He respects the laws of the land, He's a great fighter. He always looks fantastic. His armor's gleaming. And William takes real pride in making sure that his sword's always sharpened, his horse is always well maintained, and his armor's always well fitted and polished. So growing up in the court of this guy, William learns to be a true fighter, and by the age of about 14, 15, he starts to be a great fighter and starts to, beat some of the older knights. And yeah, he's definitely ready for a career in sort of war. Around the time of his 16th birthday, there's a peasant rebellion brewing in the city, and Cal Roderick gets sent to lead the princess's armies to sort of crush this rebellion. The campaign goes well. William feels great pride. He watches Cal Roderick lead the men and give orders and speeches to encourage valor and fight strongly, and he's very inspired. The campaign goes on, and when it all seems like it's going to come to a close and the princess is going to be victorious, half of the army goes back with the royal guard to the city, leaving Cal Roderick to deal the final blow. Unfortunately, they walk into an ambush, and Cal Roderick gets killed in the battle, or gravely wounded at least, and William manages to kill the knight that had wounded Roderick and take his body and try and get him back to the city to...
Roderick's body, right? Not the wounded knight.
Yeah, Roderick's body. Tries to take Roderick's body back to the city to sort of get him to a doctor or heal him up. Unfortunately, he dies on the road, but not before he knights William with his dying breath. William heads back to the city, warns the princess of the incoming danger, and they, after a bloody battle at the city walls, they manage to defeat the rebellion, and William is anointed by the princess as a true knight and gets put as an advisor on her council.
And what age was this?
Maybe 16, 17.
So very early on knighted.
Yeah, very early on knighted. He spends the next 22 years serving the Selwick royal family, and building up a reputation for himself. And where we're starting, William is from a minor noble family. He's approaching the age of 40, and he is expected to be given titles to a small village somewhere outside of the city, maybe in the next 12 months, as sort of a reward for his service. And he's from noble birth anyway, so it makes sense. So he's married. He's got 2 daughters. His wife is named Isabel. Daughters Eva and Joan. And Isabel's father, Richard, is a very successful merchant, very wealthy, and has close ties to the dealings of the royal family. He's a very influential man. All of this plays into William's hand to make him quite a powerful knight. I mean, he's obviously no lord, but he's got wealth. He's got a nice estate. He's got a good family, and he's held in very high regard. And yeah.
All right. Tell me, where is your house? You haven't been given this little estate yet. So are you in a village? Are you in Solwick itself?
Yeah, I think I've probably just got a house in Solwick, and maybe I spent some time in the keep as well. But I think that my family and my squire probably live out in a house in the city.
You have a squire?
Yeah, I assume so, right? I would have a squire. Maybe
probably.
Not.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it is evening time, I think, when we're going to come into game.
Okay.
Right? So you are awakened sometime in the night by a knocking at your door.
All right, so I open my eyes, light a torch on the side of the bed. You see the flames illuminate. He might be 40 years old, but he's still in very good shape, obviously, 18 strength. So cuts an imposing figure of, 6'4". He's extremely muscular. He's got his sword by the side of his bed. Mm-hmm. His wife's asleep. So he gets to his feet and picks up his sword slowly, holding it behind him, and goes to the door and just cracks the door open. Hello?
You see standing before you an envoy of the princess, of Princess Sella. Standing there in full envoy regalia with a small letter in his hand. He looks at you in your eyes, and you recognize him, and he recognizes you, and he kind of extends the letter towards you.
So I'll place my sword back down against the wall, raise the lantern up to the guy's face, take the letter off him, nod, thank you.
And as you take it from him, he tells you that this letter contains a summons for the princess. There's going to be a ceremony where you're going to be granted some lands and some titles and some responsibilities. You kind of have felt this coming for a while, but here it is in the dark of night, kind of a little out of the blue.
And when is the ceremony?
The ceremony is going to be in 1 week's time. So you've got some time to settle your affairs locally. You've got some time to inform anyone, get anything done that you need, because upon completion of the ceremony, you will inherit those lands and titles and immediately have responsibilities in that village. So you've got 1 week to clear your shit.
All right. I thank the messenger and quietly close the door.
Okay.
Retreat back to my bed, and my wife's still asleep. I sit up with the lantern on the side of the bedside table and read over the letter, and heart filled with pride at a life's work well done, and a reward. He's not a proud man, but he does in this moment feel proud for what he's achieved and what he's going to bequeath to his family. And eventually, when sleep starts to take over, he blows out the lantern and goes to sleep.
Okay.
So okay. I think...
So what sorts of things do you want to do in your week of downtime?
Yeah, so I mean, I've got my duties, so I'll be hanging around I'll be reporting to the keep in the morning, dealing with any issues that the captain of the guard would have me deal with, or counseling Stella with any problems that she has. But I do make time the evening of that next day to meet with my father-in-law, Richard, and the rest of my family. Okay. And I want to tell them the good news. So I've arranged somewhat of a small feast. I've got my couple of servants to bring some food, and we're all sat around the dinner table. And I make an announcement to my family. Isabel, my love, Eva, Joan, Richard, it's a good day for our family. I've received word that Princess Sella wishes to grant me ownership of a small village outside of town. I think it's going to be good for our family. We'll live a better life outside of the city. There'll be less crime. I'll have less work to do. I'll be able to spend more time with you, watching my daughters grow, help them with their education, perhaps even make a son.
Your wife gives a bit of a blush at that.
So I guess I'll stand up and raise a toast.
Okay. How old are your daughters, by the way?
Let's think. 9 and 12.
9 and 12. All right.
Yeah.
Your daughters then stand up along with your wife, your father-in-law, and I assume there are other people assembled here? This is probably some sort of party celebration?
Yeah, my squire, some friends, maybe another one of the military advisors.
Yeah,
perhaps.
So the people that you love in your life and the people who are associated with you closely. Okay.
So throughout the dinner, I ask Richard at some point how work is going for him.
Well, things have been going quite well indeed. I think we've made some cunning deals. Hoping for your help on some of these things. We've got some good investments going. But,
of course, Richard. You bring great honor to our family and to your own. I believe that your wealth and influence has aided us kindly in this matter.
You flatter me, William. My family is... We may have done well for ourselves, but we are still just humble merchants. Nothing nearly as grandiose as everything you have achieved in your lifetime.
Well, I was granted a noble birth. That is sure. But I know as much as anyone that a man can make his own lot in this life. if he works hard enough. And I see that in you. Maybe the princess one day will reward you with your own land.
Oh, well, about that, he says, and he kind of settles down into his chair and scoots a little closer to you. Earthquake happens. I've been speaking with the princess. I have this... Well, she has this plan that she's been concocting. He looks at you cautiously and kind of glances around the table to see if anyone might be listening. This is good, pleasant company. You all know each other well. You're all friends and family, but he still looks around a little cautiously.
Would you do you prefer to head to the after dinner room for a private conversation? I have some.
No, it's quite fine. You can just never be too careful here. It looks like everyone's in good spirits, and I think I see some musicians walking by. But why don't we invite them in? Let everyone have a nice time with them.
Of course.
He goes to the door and calls to the passing musicians in the street and asks, gives them some money and has them come in and play for everybody to kind of give some cover to your conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Once the musicians come in and the party gets a little bit more relaxed and lively, and dinner's over and people are starting to drink and socialize now, and everyone's intermingling, he comes back to that comfy little corner of the table with you and says, "So,
at this point, I've had quite a bit to drink,
mm-hmm.
and I'm not quite as in control of my not my senses, but yeah, I'm getting drunk."
Are you typically like this, or is this like a celebratory letting loose and getting drunk? Are you a heavy drinker?
William's not a heavy drinker around his family and at home or at work, but when out on the field with the men, he does drink more then. So it's quite unusual for him to be drunk around Richard and his family.
Around his children?
Yeah.
Okay. Your father-in-law Richard is fairly sober at this point. He's had a couple of glasses of wine, but he's not letting loose the same way you are, understandably so.
Sure.
So, Willie,
yes,
I've
father.
made this interesting deal with the princess. She's got this harebrained idea that Caledonia, frozen, cursed wasteland that it is ripe for the plucking.
Caledonia, the
cursed continent to the south.
Right.
Yeah.
Ripe for the plucking?
Well, it's been sitting there for millennia and a half, relatively untouched. Most people are too damn afraid of it, and the curse of the gods to bother visiting. But that does mean a whole kingdom's worth of wealth, treasures, fineries are just sitting there under the ice somewhere.
Yes, and what, you plan to go there?
Well, the newly minted princess has some foolhardy notions that can be reclaimed for the might of Solwik and Drekis. And, on some level I agree with her, so we've worked out a deal. I will be helping to finance this expedition of hers in exchange for a cut of the profits.
Well, you're a braver man than I. Congratulations.
What do you mean, braver man than you? Of course I'm not braver than you. Look at you. You're an anointed knight. You've slain many people in battle, led great missions, right? I mean...
I know. I've had accolades, sure, but land cursed by the gods. Would you really go there? Seems foolhardy to me.
But think of all the wealth. Think of the untold riches. How's your history? Do you remember the late sorcerer king of Caledonia? Said he was fabulously wealthy.
I am read in such matters, but I've never had much of a head for it. Why don't you remind me?
He strokes his small beard for a little while. The details are not too important, but it's enough to say that Caledonia was a wealthy kingdom when it still stood, back before the gods froze it over and ripped apart Arcadia, rose the mountains, created the canals, back before all those, before the dark days. He looks at you, sees you're maybe a little bit kind of tipsy, puts a hand on your shoulder and says, well, come on, to success then, To me with my expedition and you with your new village.
I can toast to that.
Right.
Raise a drink to him.
Yeah, you guys clink your drinks, and as you're downing yours, he says, there's just one small problem. We really need a trustworthy, reliable, honorable leader of men to do this mission, to do this expedition. I know you've just been granted lands, or are about to be granted lands, but what would you say to a 1 or 2 year tour of Caledonia, leading your own contingent?
Father, I'm flattered, but I think those days are behind me.
Nonsense! You're a young man still. Look at you.
Well, I'm strong, but my wife, my children, your daughter, I couldn't leave her.
They wouldn't have to go with you. They could stay here in the comfort of the home. I would see after them.
I wouldn't seek to leave them. Look, I'm flattered, but I've had my adventuring days are behind me. I think I'd like to settle down in my village and
fair enough.
Nice and fun.
Fair enough. Think nothing of it. Here, let's have another round. To getting old and sitting on your rear after a long life of adventuring. How's that sound to you?
I can drink too. Yes, I'll take another drink and throw it down.
Okay, he drinks with you too and goes, you're a young man still. When I was your age, I still had sparkles in my eyes. I still wanted to see the open land. I was right there on the seat of my ox cart. Nothing as fancy as your war horse, of course, but on the seat of my ox cart, driving across Drekis, making deals, making trades, bringing wealth home. There was a sense of spirit and adventure to it, I felt like I could send my family, or set up my family for good if I only pushed myself a little bit harder. Do you ever worry about that? Just between, us old married men, do you ever have concerns about the wealth your family might have?
Taking another drink and knocking it back. Hiccuping. Well, I don't know. I think I've done all right for myself. Don't you think? Look, I reach over to a table and grab it's like a letter seal. Look,
Mm-hmm.
I even have my own seal. My shield has my sigil on it. I've been a successful man, I think.
Very much.
No, I think it's time to enjoy the fruits of one's labor. You're ambitious, and that's commendable. But your line of work may be not so dangerous as mine.
Of course, everyone needs a chance to relax, and he kicks his heels up on the table, kick up their heels, and really enjoy the things that they've done.
Yeah, I take another drink, slump back in my seat.
I'm so proud of my daughter finding a man like you who's afraid of nothing, who can accomplish great deeds and set up his family for good.
No, it is me who should be thankful. You've produced a beautiful daughter.
Well, she gets it from her mother. God rest her soul. I'm just I'm just a man who never knows when to quit, I suppose. Even in my ripe old age, I still long for more. What do we say? One more drink then, huh?
Okay, one more.
All right. One more, and then I'll show you this drinking game I picked up on the Iron Coast.
To the Iron Coast. One more drink.
Of course. Wait, I think it's the Iron Ridge, not the... Doesn't matter. Another toast. And he's getting a little drunk now, too. You're both getting a little bit in your cups. And, he goes on about this expedition, but I think,
Yeah, my eyes start to grow heavy, and I think at some point or another, I must pass out into unconsciousness in my chair.
All right. The party slowly draws to a close. You're probably not awake for the very last bit of it, but that's okay. So you finish up your affairs that you need in the next few days, and then we go to the ceremony where you are going to be granted lands, titles. What titles are you being granted, if any?
I don't know. What would the title be of somebody who was like, it's not lord, is it? Like if you're just in charge of a village, what would that make you?
If the village belongs to you, if you are running the village and you own the land, then you would be a minor lord at that point. I think up until now you've just been a knight and a noble, but you know, people might call you lord as an honorific you haven't quite earned.
Yeah, I think so. My father and my older brothers probably own some villages as well, but I was too far down the line of succession to own any myself. So whereas they might be minor lords already, I've only ever been a knight.
Right.
But now I've got my own.
So a few days pass until the day comes for the ceremony in which you will be granted the village of Baron. Baron.
So I've got my I dress up for the occasion. There's going to be a feast at the keep, or is it?
Yes. There's a party. There's a ceremony and a party. Feast is maybe a little bit too grand since it's a fairly small event going on here.
So I've got my I wear my best clothes. So I've got like a tunic with my my family sigil on it, which is a red lion on green and white shield. I'll post it in the chat if you want, because it's.
Do you actually have some art for it?
Well, no, it's just William Marshall's sigil.
Oh, the actual William Marshall sigil?
Yeah.
That you're stealing?
Maybe it's more like green and yellow. It's pretty cool.
Let me take a look. Where did you post it?
Oh, I'll post it in our chat. There you go.
Okay, let's take a look. Ooh, very nice. Like it. All right. So everyone's gathered around at this ceremony.
Yeah, my wife is here. I'm not sure if my kids would be, but my wife is, and Richard is here as well, I think.
Yeah, your kids are probably seated at the kids' table. I think there's probably a separate table. Family's important in this day and age, and everyone needs to stick together and see how life will work. So your kids are off hanging out with the princess's kids and the kids of all the other families nearby at their own little table, which has their own little hierarchy that we don't need to bother getting into.
So this is a much different William than was at the party the other night. When he's on official duty, and he would consider this official duties in the presence of the princess, he's much more quiet, reserved, wouldn't drink much, if any at all. Sort of just, very reserved and professional. So I'm sitting there speaking quietly with my wife and making small talk with the other people around the table, but not drinking too much, not drawing too much attention to myself.
Okay. So there is like a piano over in the corner that a musician is playing on. Their servants bring around hors d'oeuvres. Everyone's standing right now. And as the party kind of progresses and dinner comes and everyone sits down and the servants bring out these large plates, and it's all very formal and proper, and everyone's in their perfect attire. All the lords nearby carry swords and have their coat of arms on them. Everyone's dressed to the nines, and dinner gets, served. Is there anyone in particular you want to be talking to during dinner? How are you behaving here? This is like your day in the sun, right?
Yeah, I think because he's very modest and probably not too. He's not gonna. Like I said, he doesn't like to sort of come across as proud. So he's just very modest, and he'll speak to people if they make conversation with him, but it's very much asking questions about other people, like what are they up to, and he tries to divert the conversation away from himself most of the time. So most of the people around this table are of higher birth than William.
Yeah, you're pretty low on the noble chart, right?
Yeah, so he doesn't want to be presumptuous, he feels like he works for these people.
Right. Okay, so you're behaving quite properly here. Yeah. And eventually the dinner calms down, and and the princess gives like a tapping of her ring on a glass, and everyone settles down. She stands up at the head of the table and begins to give a speech about how this loyal and brave Kel William Marshall has served her and her family for so long. You know, he helped way back when during the Peasant Rebellion. He, stood by her side when her mother died and Princess Sella had to take over. You've been here through all these wonderful things, and it's time that a man of your stature finally gets his just deserts. It's time for you to take a village of your own and, really come into your own as not only a father but as a knight and as a member of her council. And there's a round of applause as she gives you these accolades. She asks you to stand up and come over and stand next to her in a very similar proceeding to when you were knighted. She puts a sword on one shoulder and the other, grants you your titles, grants you the village of Barron, talks about how it's just to the southwest of Solwick in this nice little area. The poor former lord died and having children, and they needed a new person. She couldn't think of anyone better than you to run this village. And there's a round of applause as the sword goes back and forth. The honors are given, and you return to your seat.
I kiss her hand, walk back to my seat.
Okay. While you get down, your wife from across the table calls, "Honey, would you like to give a speech?"
I look around. Is there much appetite for a speech?
Yeah, there's some. I mean, this is your moment here. It would be quite appropriate for you to say anything if you have any words.
So I stand up. I look to the princess and say, "Princess Sella, thank you so much. I'm not sure I deserve this. This isn't why I aided you and your family. It was a question of loyalty, and all I've ever wanted is to secure this town and its people, and to secure your lineage and your family's lineage. And I'll be forever grateful for what you've done for me and my family and the future generations of my family. Thank you. And to all of you, thank you." And I'll raise a glass and take a sip and sit back down.
Glasses get raised, get clinked together with forks. Everyone takes a sip and sits back down. As you're just getting comfortable in your seat, the princess stands up again and says, "And we have a second announcement this evening. Kel William's father, I'm sure everyone knows Mr. Richard here, one of the great merchants of our area. Mr. Richard has offered to help finance our expedition to Caledonia, the frozen frontier to the south. And our very own and newly minted Lord Kel William has offered to lead the expedition."
I, drinking my wine as he says that, almost have to stop myself from spitting out in surprise and look wide-eyed towards Richard, who's now standing next to the princess.
Richard gives you a wink and stands next to the princess and says, "Well, we talked about it a bunch, and at first William said, no, I've got my family to think of, my wife, my daughter, I can't wait to spend time with him. But as the night drew on and we talked about the glories in the south to be found, the treasure, the honor he could bring to Princess Sella here and our little duchy here in Drekis of Solwick, well, he just couldn't turn it down. He's a man of too much honor and respect to leave his kingdom in a time of need. He volunteered very eagerly. William, stand up again. You're going to be our new commander on the expedition to Caledonia."
So I stand up slowly, eyes looking across the crowd. Maybe there's a small round of applause.
Mm-hmm. There is, everyone's surprised. Your wife's mouth is agape, like, wait, this isn't, what's happening, huh? Is this a joke? And Princess Sella has you come back towards her again and says, "So, I bet you didn't see this one coming, William. You're also going to be promoted to the rank of captain, in addition to being made a lord. Today is a wonderful day for you. Please kneel while I promote you to captain." And
so I look over her shoulder at Richard again and kneel and drop my head.
All right. She comes over and throws a sword on either end of your shoulder, promoting you to captain in the armed forces here. And a round of applause goes. This time, much more enthusiastic. You're going on this wonderful mission to, find all this wealth for the glory of your queen, for your empire, and for your princess. And then Richard gets up and starts talking with the princess, but I think at this point you're maybe a little bit too focused on what's just happened. Your wife scoots around to your side of the table and looks at you and goes, "Sweetie, what's going on? I thought we were retiring."
I shake my head and say, "We can talk about this later. I don't know how this has happened. But I have no choice."
"But I thought we were..."
Right, well,
"What about we were going to make a son?"
I know, my love. You'll just have to keep my side of the bed warm. Your father says it will only be a year or two.
"When were you going to tell me about this?"
This is the first I've heard. I told him no. I'm not sure what happened.
Let me go say something to him. I'm sure this is just this can just be...
No, you can't. You can't. It's if the princess thinks that I am the man for the job and she thinks I've agreed, I can't go back on that now. I've got no choice.
Crestfallen, she kind of sits next to you in her father's seat. You are vaguely aware that you're being talked about by the princess and Richard, and then there's a round of applause, and you can just kind of unconsciously stand to your feet to accept it again.
Mm-hmm.
And then the dinner slowly finishes up. At the end of it, you are called over to Princess Sella, and she proceeds to outline to you your mission and your duties. You are to gather a group of experts together to do this. This is her first big change as High Princess of Solwick, and she wants it done right, but also at the same time, there's not a lot of funding for it, so you're going to have a small group with you. She says she has already sent a Captain Geneva Hughes, or Captain Kel Geneva Hughes, down to Caledonia with a few men, like 30 or so, to build a fortress there and, get a little stronghold going. You will be working with Captain Geneva Hughes to explore the area. She'll maintain the fortress, keep supplies going, keep a foothold while you and your 3 men, she suggests, travel out to see what can be found. You will both be the rank of captain. She'll be in charge of the fort. You'll be in charge of the expedition. When you're at the fort, you'll have to be underneath her, command structure-wise. And she also hands you a letter. It's like sealed on the letter on the actual page, not like sealed close. That explains to whoever. Where do I have this written down? It says, "To whom it may concern, I, High Princess Sella Solwick, have charged Kel William Marshall with the task of exploring the frozen wastes known as Caledonia and recovering lost gold and relics. All true and loyal subjects of Drekis and Solwick will provide Kel Marshall and his men with whatever aid and comfort they can spare. Signed, the High Princess Sella of Solwick."
I take the letter off her, kiss her hand.
Mm-hmm.
Princess Sella, it's a great honor. Thank you.
Well, I'm sure you are the man for the job. I have a couple of recommendations as far as people you can take with you, but the decision will ultimately be yours.
Of course, I'd be happy to hear them.
All right. And then she'll, you guys can talk about that sort of stuff off screen. We don't need to do it right now. And I think that's going to bring to a close William's prologue, unless there's some other detail I'm missing.
The final scene would just be William in his bed with his wife and his 2 children.
Oh, yeah, that night.
And they're in tears as William's just finished explaining what he's got to do. Unconsolable, and eventually he gets them off to sleep and spends the night pacing around the house, ready to get to work in the morning.
All right. Well, that is going to be it for our quick prologue with William here. We're going to go to a break, and when we come back, we will see how it is that William begins to recruit his people. So, see you guys on the other side of our break.